Gong Hee Fa Chai Humpnostication Proclamation.
Well, howdy, folks, and welcome to the Humpnostication Proclamation for the Valero Texas Open at the TPC San Antonio. This is the last and final stop before we get to the Masters. As always, this program is made possible by the good folks at Gup's Corner and powered by the statistical wonders of both Fantasy National and Fanshare Sports. So here we are. It's San Antonio. We're brought to you by Gup's Corner. So who better to have on tonight than a man who is not only in San Antonio, but puts the Gup in Gup's Corner, none other than Gup himself. What's going on, brother?
Man, it's a pleasure. It's an honor. I'm excited. The next 10 days are going to be crazy. I've told Mama Gup on Sunday night. I was actually reading the book of Joe Pita, the guy we have on later, and she was like, I hadn't seen the twinkle in your eye in a while, and a lot of that has to do with and you've done it probably. You relocate for work and you try to get comfortable. You got so much going on, and I just now in the last 3 or 4 weeks felt like we're finally relaxed and in a home. Although Mama Gup takes care of it all, but we finally are feeling there. And so I felt this weekend was the first weekend I took time to just chill, and I read the book, and then, being on several podcasts this week, just researching, and it's just been great. And the next 10 days are going to be amazing. And the Masters is as good as it gets. Looking forward to going to Valero for the first time ever here in my backyard, but I'm looking forward to it all. It's going to be a great few weeks here, and at Gup's Corner couldn't be a better time for us. So I'm excited all the way around.
All right. Now you mentioned Joe Pita. So I believe coming out is it going to be Thursday?
Yes, sir.
Your discussion with Joe Pita about the strokes gain data that he put together for the Masters, man. I'm looking forward to that.
It was, I was a little nervous. I reached out to him last Friday or so, and just on a whim, I talked to Bucks, who you've had on, and he's obviously a partner of mine in Gup's Corner, and I said, man, this is amazing. Let's just reach, and so he actually had followed me a few weeks ago. I don't know how, when, where, or what, maybe after I followed him or something. But so I just DM'd him. I was like, hey, we're getting ready for Masters Week. Any chance you want to come on and talk about the book? And he was like, absolutely. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. And so I wasn't expecting that. And so we got him on, and we had to cut off after an hour and a half. It was in depth, great, fun. I can't wait for it to come out. It was a great pod. He's an excellent guy, very, very intelligent person, but very down to earth. I think he's a future Hump guest as well, because he is a laid back dude, and put all perspective to it, and love the community. And so I can't wait for it to come out. It was a great time. And the book's amazing. It's what, an hour and a half, 2 hour read. So anybody that wants to go get it, we'll promo it all week, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, I was telling you before we came on, I read that book on the plane, and at one point my wife looked over, and I just happened to be on a page with a bunch of strokes gain data and no words, and she's like, that ain't no book. What are you reading, huh? Oh, man, yeah, it's good stuff, man. All right, wait, before we move any further, let's talk about Gup's Corner. Right now, I think it's up. I might be off, but I think up until the 14th of this month, people can lock in their membership rate for life. If I'm off base, go ahead and tell me. And not only that, they have the opportunity, right, to play with you, my buddy Moose, and that hack Bucks at Blue Jack National. Tell the people what they need to do to qualify for that trip and to lock in their rate for life.
Yeah, so through Sunday night at Augusta, you can join Gup's Corner, $6.99 a month, or the better option would be $69 a year, or a one-time only offer of $129 for 2 years. Annual gets you one drawing. 2 year will get you 2 entries into the drawing. So Bucks and I was at a charity event for my company, and they were auctioning off a 3-day, 2-night, 2-round deal at Blue Jack National, which, if you don't know what that is, it's Tiger Woods' course he built north of Houston, Augusta-like, one of the top 5 rated courses in Texas right now, the number one kind of community rated course. And bluejacknational.com, the pictures look amazing. It's going to be an absolutely amazing time. So someone who enters between when we started way back a few months ago till Sunday will win to go with us. And Moose he's going to provide all the travel from Fantasy National. He's the founder of fantasynational.com. And so, we're looking forward to it. It's going to be amazing. About 4:00 Eastern time on Sunday, we will cut it off because we got to pull all the data, get the entries in, and obviously the back 9 is Sunday. We all want to pay attention to that. Hopefully it's a great finish. And we're going to do a post show afterwards, recap the Masters, and then Mrs. Gupp is going to draw out the winner. And then Monday morning, prices go up to $14.99 a month. And then, it's never going to go as cheap as it is now. And it's not like we're not doing that because of threatening or anything. It was just we laid out a promo of all promos to let people. My thinking when I developed it was I wanted everybody that supported us for 18 months and supported us so strongly to have a chance to join in. And it wasn't about the money. It was just about getting the community built and allowing us to have some money to put back into the company, which is 100% what we're doing. And so the reason why we offered it what we did was for that. And hopefully everybody jumps in before April 14th because it won't get better than that. And the community is just absolutely thriving right now.
Yeah, it's already goofy cheap like the way it is now. So if you can lock that in for the future, there's no reason not to. So get on it and try to get yourself down there to Blue Jack National. I mean, Guff, Moose, and Bucks. I mean, bring your extra liver and have yourself a good time out on that golf course. All right, Guff. Now, before we get into the Humpnostication piece, I want to touch on a couple things. The first thing I want to talk about is I saw both you and Greg Chalmers, who's a good dude, tweet out today about World Autism Day, talking about maximum chances. You can go to maximumchances.org. Now, you tweeted that you're going to donate a percentage of your profit, and then you and Mama Gupp are also going to donate on top of that this week to Maximum Chances. Just in case people don't know, tell us why that organization is important to you, and just let us know how we can help out.
Yeah. So, don't talk about it a lot, but I do talk about it when people, I don't hide it by any means. But my oldest, who's 8 now, when he was 2.5, was a very unique case of a kid diagnosed with autism. He was 9 months old and running, laughing, communicating, smiling, but there was some unique things with him as he was getting close to 2 that I noticed. And me being OCD, I kind of noticed some things with him that I was telling, my wife, and I was like, I hate using the word normal, but I was like, things, it just seems different. But, we research and you start, Google's the enemy, but you start doing that. And, you're like, people say, well, maybe, autistic. And I was like, no, because they say autistic, he don't smile. And I was like, Madden, shit, he's full of smiles and laughing, and he's saying words bigger than I can say already. And it wasn't there, but there were other things that you're like, oh, well, maybe. And long story short, yeah, he was diagnosed at almost 3 as a next to the severest level. He was right below it, which I didn't necessarily agree with, but it doesn't matter at that point. And you love your kids for any reason on earth, and Madden's a special kid. And at first you're kind of like, what does it mean? And the good thing about it, and even then it was kind of newer than what it is now. It allowed us to dive in and research, and thanks to the good Lord above, whether people believe or not, wherever you believe your beliefs from, we've been blessed, but beyond blessed, to be able to give him anything and everything he needs. And when we moved down to Flower Mound in 2015, which was right after he was diagnosed, shortly after that, I met a gentleman by the name of Stephen Bowditch, and who is a PGA Tour champion and one of the most stand-up guys I've ever met in my life. And he introduced, I introduced him to Madden, and we started talking about autism, and his nephew actually in Australia is autistic, but he told me about Greg Chalmers, and Greg was a buddy of, obviously Greg is, knows Steven very well, both Australian, and he said he's got a foundation, MaximumChances.org, that it's for people that aren't blessed, can't provide. And I read into it, and me and Mama Gup was like, we're all in. And so we started donating then. And the very first organization I made a large donation to last year after winning my big summer of that was Greg's deal. And so Greg and I exchanged some messages after that. I followed him a lot at the Byron Nelson last year. Tremendous dude. That organization is class A, not top notch for autistic kids and providing for them. They just reached $1 million raise since they started it, which is outstanding. And so I'm all behind it. Anybody that ever tweets me or asks me, who do I donate to? Can I help you out? I'm like, fortunately we're blessed, but I send them all to MaximumChances.org. And there's plenty out there. Ernie L's kid, Ernie has a great foundation for autistic kids. So there's many out there. I'm personally kind of know Greg through Mr. Bowditch. And so that's who we push our guys to. And it's a great organization. Today's a great, this whole month is Autism Awareness Month. Today's the official day, which is, very near and dear to our hearts. So I appreciate you throwing it out there. And obviously I posted my stuff this morning, but yeah, anything this week that I make profit wise, we'll give a large donation to. And then whether we make a penny or not, Mrs. Gup and I will always make an annual donation to Maximum Chances in April. And then throughout the year as we have some big weeks. So anybody wants to donate there, if you're looking for a donation cause, it's a tremendous, tremendous foundation.
Yeah, man, MaximumChances.org. Bowditch, obviously a great dude. I had the pleasure of talking to him a few times, and I reached out to him and I said, hey, Bodo, I'm going to be out in LA, man. Can you hook me up? Can you know anybody who's played in the tournament? And lo and behold, man, Greg Chalmers, this was the Genesis Open, not this past one that happened, but a year and month ago. And Chalmers hooked me and my wife up with tickets, and we followed him around, and he is a solid dude. So this is what I'm going to do, Gup. I cannot say I'm going to base it on my profit because Hump does not always profit, brother. And I do not want to donate zero, but this is what I'm going to do, man. I'm training for a little half marathon. So tomorrow I'm supposed to wake up 4 a.m. I'm supposed to run a minimum of 10 miles. Now it's getting a little bit late here on the East Coast, so it's starting to look a little bit iffy. Now this is what I'm going to do. If I get my 10 miles in, I'm going to donate 100 to MaximumChances.org. If I fall short of the 10 miles, I'm going to donate 250. When I finish my run, I'm going to screenshot you the thing so you can hold me to it. How's that sound, brother?
That's amazing. I love it. And 4 a.m. That I bless you because I know it's 11 there, and I'm running on fumes, so I know you are. So that's awesome.
All right, man. Good. Hey, quickly, let's just. I saw another thing on the tweeter today, man. You and the man with the fabulous lettuce. I'm talking about Feinberg. You guys are gonna do some kind of WrestleMania pod, some kind of wrestling pod, man. Hit me up with the Cliff Notes version of what that's going to be.
So Jeff is my brother from another mother. We met last year at the Honda. The OG John, which I hope he makes it on this pod one day. As a contributor to Gup's Corner, one of the most stand-up guys in the world. Had me out forever now, but he lives in Jupiter, got a condo off the beach. And so I was at the Honda and Jeff, just coincidentally, Jeff's in-laws live out there as well. And so I just happened, we talked back and forth, whatnot through Mayo, blah, blah, blah. And so I just DM'd him and said, hey, I'm going to be there. You come to the Honda? He said, yeah. I said, well, hey, we got some tickets. You want to meet up? And we met up, and there was kind of that awkward pause, kind of like that first date with the old 16-year-old girl in high school or something. But about 30 minutes later, it was all good. And I'll tell you what, we couldn't have clicked more. Our backgrounds, our history, the golf, the betting. I mean, it all clicked, and he's a true guy. And the wrestling part kind of came out a little bit later. I heard him with Mayo one day, kind of Mayo giving him jabs, and then I found out we both are fucking WWE fanatics for life. And so I've actually been working on this for several weeks, and this isn't a one-time only pod. So what I asked Jeff, I didn't know his obligations with Mayo and all those guys. I said, hey man, I kind of want to do every 2 weeks, every month. I want to do what I call a no holds bar pod, and it's more about me stepping outside the golf world and everything, just a raw, uncut, let's talk about us. And I said, I think you're the guy. And he was like, I'm all in. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. And I said, let's do the first one that kind of makes sense around WrestleMania and the Masters because they fall in the same week. I said, done. And so for the last month, we've kind of went back and forth, scheduling it, getting it all repped. And we're going to record it Thursday night and release it Saturday. Mayo's all in. He loves it. I predict that there'll be some dual simulcast productions in the future with Paul and JB running the show. And I think it's going to take off. I think it's going to be great. We're going to go behind the scenes. We're going to go deep into the core of me and him, back from childhood up. We're going to talk about how we were raised, where we are, how we got there. We're going to talk about stuff we like, what we don't like. We're going to talk about pansies. There's a lot of things we got on the plate. It's not just wrestling and Masters. That's obviously the core because I'm a wrestling fan, true and true. And so is he. And then we obviously the Masters is just kind of there. So we'll talk about it. I don't want to say it's just there. It's the greatest tournament of the year and it'll fall in line. But wrestling to me is a sport, is a deal that kind of connected my life at a time when things were kind of difficult, and it was always my keepsake. And there's a lot of personal affection that probably will come out in the pod that most think it's a fake whatever sport. But when you live a certain childhood and there are things you can attach to for life, whether it's fake, real, whatever, it to me, that's what wrestling was to me. It was always that, if you call it that binky or that blanky, my kids are getting into it now a little bit. And so there are parts about wrestling, whether it's fake or not, or whatever, that are emotionally strong for me, that I will always respect it for what it was. And Jeff feels the same way. So I'm thoroughly excited to unleash it, and we're going to go all out, and I can't wait for it.
So that's awesome, man, because I didn't realize that it was more than just wrestling. Looking at the tweet, I was like, oh, it's a wrestling pod, but it's going to be about you and Jeff, man.
It is.
This is wild, dude. I'm excited. Now, nobody knows this about Hump, but back in the day, this was early. I mean, man, you might have been a little baby in diapers, dude. But like I was it was WWF back then. Man.
Yeah, there you go.
Nut. I was crazy fan. I mean, I go back to the days. I don't know if you remember the AWA, man. They had like where the Road Warriors came from. I mean, it was nuts, dude. And I went, and I'm going off the top of my head now. I want to say it wasn't WrestleMania 3 because I think that was Detroit where Hogan body slammed Andre the Giant, right? So it was after that. It was 5, 6, or 7. It was out in Los Angeles, man. I got to go with a buddy of mine, and we were like 14, 15 years old, and the Ultimate Warrior and my man Randy Savage, they fought in a retirement match, dude. And I'll never forget that, dude. Randy Savage was my boy. Oh, yes, the Macho Man, Randy Savage. You better watch that show with Gup and Feinberg. Can you dig it? You know what I'm saying, man, right there?
I mean, 100%. I mean, it was, so that's WrestleMania 7, and which was great. It was funny as I learned Monday that freaking Feinberg was at WrestleMania 6, which is my golden point as a child, and this goes old school, right? And you'll know this. So this is when back in the day where you had to beg mama to go to the cable box company and rent one of the boxes, right? And then you got the box and you got to bring it home, and then you got to rent it. And so I'm begging mama for all year, and she's like, you have to have straight A's. So Gup gets straight A's. And I remember to this day, being at Cox Cable in Oklahoma City in a line to get my box, because I got to bring the box home, and that means I got to watch WrestleMania 6, Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan, which I can do that entire pay-per-view from hands down. And then I find out Sunday night that Feinberg got to go to it because it's in Toronto, of course, right? Where he's at. And I'm like, what? And it just, I mean, the emotions that'll come out in this pod will be amazing. And we talked about WrestleMania 7, Macho Man versus, and then WrestleMania 8, you got Ric Flair. I mean, it just, the golden age of wrestling was, I was talking to this about Peta on the last podcast, was I feel like I was born in the perfect time. Like I'm right on that edge of millennial. I'm far from millennial as far as the dictionary deters it because of work ethic and all that. But like I'm 5 and it's WrestleMania, right? I was born the year WrestleMania was created, and so every year is WrestleMania. Like this is WrestleMania 35. I'm 35. 5 years old and the Nintendo comes out, right? So I'm great there. I get to see, I get to see Jordan in his prime. I get to see Tiger in his prime. So for my lifetime, I'm like, man, I just been blessed among all these great, eras of life that people go back now and go, man, I wish I could have seen Jordan live. And I'm like, man, that was my prime. This is way off the box, but I know Nipsey just died, and God rest him, and everything he stood for was tremendous, and is close to, but Tupac, right, and Biggie, which to me,
brother,
I grew up on the east side of Oklahoma City, so I grew up very poor, and this will come out in the pod, but I grew up, I say poor, but my mama always put food on the table and a shirt on my back. That's all that mattered, but I grew up around that environment, and so Biggie and Pac was in my CD player all the time in high school, and those were the greatest of all time. And even today, I hear all these new guys, and Nipsey was a different artist that was very close to those kind of guys in my mind, because there's a lot of guys out there that are just one-off and all that, but I can still go put a Tupac CD on and not pair a skip, right? It's authentic head to toe, and right. And Nipsey was like that, and he liked Biggie and Pac. People don't realize Biggie and Pac died at 25 and 26, and so this last week was a little hard, hearing about Nipsey, but those prime for my life, I was like, man, I couldn't have been born at a better age. Now there are times I've come up in my career and they're like, you're a millennial. And like, when I was like 24, I was like, what the hell is a millennial? I started looking it up. I was like, I'm not a fucking millennial. I was like, that if that's what a millennial is, that ain't me. Like, there's a lot of things I'm not, and I'm not the smartest or brightest or anything like that, but I'll put my work ethic up against anybody. And so when I hear about this, and I definitely don't think I'm entitled to shit. And my mama and my grandfather, I didn't have a daddy raised or anything like that. My mama raised me from the time up, but my grandfather, God rest his soul, instilled in me, you're going to get your ass up and work. You're going to work for everything you earn. And so that's not upon me when you look at the millennial side. And so it's a great time to be Gup, but we're blessed beyond belief. And I can't, the next 5-10 years for me, I can't wait for, and hopefully we can pass some of that on to the community we've built.
That is awesome, man. I love that we got to talk Tupac and Biggie in the Humpnostication Proclamation. Now, listen, man, we don't have time to get into this story right now, but you have to remind me the next time we talk, Hump has got to tell you the Stu Hart telephone story. All right, so we got it here on tape in case we forget. Stu Hart telephone story. All right, but now we got to get into the golfers, man. We got to get to the Humpnostication Proclamation. You ready to do this?
100%. I got Bucks tell me I had to have Tito's, so I'm loaded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we are sponsored by Tito's. Not really, but
we're working on that.
All right, man. Today, I'm going to go to the 10K range. I don't always do that, but only because there's two guys there that I want to touch on. The first one is, just because he's Jordan Spieth, obviously he's playing horribly and his numbers look terrible. He's in Texas kid. Is there any chance in your mind that he turns it around to the point where his salary warrants playing in this week?
In my typical play, no. 1 to 3 max, wouldn't touch him. Like I've said for probably a month now, on our side, that if I'm doing 10 plus, 20 plus, am I going to have the field or double the field to be 10%? 100%. He's an elite player, whatever you want to call him, a baby, a crybaby, a blah, blah, blah. He's an elite talent. And can he show up at any given time and play well? 100%. Can he show up next week and win the Masters? 100% he can. I'm not going to be ironic, or, I'm not going to be an idiot and say he's garbage. His form is and everything he's doing, but can he find something this week? I remember Stephen Bowditch, he told me the story. It was either the Byron or the Valero that he won. He was off a little bit Saturday night, and he said he was out there for 2 hours on the range, almost till dark. And in the last 20 minutes of his session, he found what was off and went out the next day and won the championship. I think it was the Valero, but it may have been the Byron. But that story sticks with me to say it. These guys are so close. They're so. I mean, a half a stroke difference for them is a big deal. That can he wake up tomorrow and find it? 100%. And so, am I ever going to go 20% on him in a 153 max? No, I'm not going to do that right now. That's not plus EV in my mind. But if I'm doing 20 entries in the $5 or the 44, something like that, would I be stupid to not put 2 in to have 10% of them? Yeah, I'm going to be on him. He's an elite guy, and I think he can show up anytime.
Okay, yeah. I mean, obviously, MME, you'd be silly not to take a little piece of him. But if you're going 3 max or single entry, you don't want any Spieth. I'm down with that. I'm good with that. How about my boy, Ricky Fowler, who's getting tags over at Fanshare, but his sentiment rating, it's really low. I mean, it looks like there's a chance that he's kind of going to go overlooked up there in that big range. Any love for Ricky this week?
Sure. Yeah. So I watched this presser today. I think a lot of people will correlate that they think he's here to check the box, get it off his once every 4 years. He's got to play a certain tournament, blah, blah, blah. He loves playing. He said today, I want to play competitively 4 rounds before the Masters. So whatever tournaments before the Masters, I want to play in it if the schedule allows, which is why he's here. So I think he's motivated to play. I think he wants to go in on a high note. If he's going to come in low owned, I'll play Ricky over. I'll play him over everybody in this range except for one guy. We may get to him in a second, but I don't mind Ricky at all this week.
When do you finalize your ownership stuff that you put out for the Gups Corner community? Because you're pretty dead on usually with that stuff.
Yeah, so I try. Obviously, the community would want it earlier and earlier. I'm like, well, there's factors in there that if I get it out earlier, you could have some variations. But I try to get it out an hour-ish before the E9 chat, which is 9 o'clock your time, Eastern Standard Time. So I try to get it out about 8 o'clock. I try to finalize it, pulling it all together around 7:30, and then getting the formatting and kind of tweaking a few last things that I may hear or look at. But 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock my time is kind of my goal to get it out and get it locked in.
Okay, man. And your feel on Ricky right now? I mean, I'm just going to pull up the live data here. So Finau has 17 tags on Fanshare. Ricky and Sung Jae both have 13, but Ricky's sentiment is 60% compared to Sung Jae's 100. So, yeah. I mean, Ricky could kind of scoot under there. I mean, it's hard to say, but.
No, I think it will, because as we kind of get through this, I think most people will say the 6,000 is garbage this week, or uncomfortable for most. There's a few guys I really, really like down there, but it's not a grab all like it normally is to find, 5 or 6 guys that people may like. So I think it's not a fate of Ricky. I think a lot of guys will try to go as more balanced as they can this week, which will put them off of Ricky So if you have one or two guys that you can pair Ricky with and still have a good lineup, I think it could be a contrarian build for sure.
All right, man, let's get down to $9,000 range. Obviously, Jason Kokrak is going to be maybe not even the chalk of the price range, but chalk of the weekend for good reason. The guy is on fire. I'm a little bit surprised about really the lack of love that I'm seeing from a man, Lucas Bjerregaard, or whatever we're going to call him. There's not a ton of data out there on him, obviously, but he gained 5 strokes tee to green with 3.8 on approach at the Honda. He gained 3.6 strokes off the tee at the Players. To me, just watching the dude play last weekend, especially in that match against Tiger, like he passes the eyeball test. I'm surprised he's kind of going overlooked as far as what fanshare shows. What are your thoughts on Lucas Bjerregaard?
Yeah, so if you watch the pod, you know I suck at names, so I just stick to Beer Garden. But I will say, just so I don't leave the Hump listeners hanging, the one guy that I would go to up top, other than Ricky, who if he's going to stay low owned, who I love, and you mentioned him, is Sung Jae. If he's going to be under 50%, automatic for me, I'm playing him. So Beer Garden, the deal with here, and I was there at the tournament, obviously last week in Austin. If he doesn't make 17 miles of putts and he happens to not beat Tiger, and there's a lot of if the nuts are bending, candy and nuts, blah, 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 in that statement, he's 7,700 this week. So I think the industry would say his price increase is higher than what it should be, and so it's kind of turning some people off. And I said this kind of last night in our pod that I want absolutely none of him because I think he's more liable. He's more likely to miscut than anything, especially because he's already locked his Augusta ticket by his performance last week, right? So if he doesn't win, he has nothing to gain other than he's a young up and comer and money's money, right? You want to make money. So I think he's hungry driven and all that, but I think the price put people off of him. But if I get to tomorrow night and I run the metrics and the algorithms and all that kind of stuff, and he's 6%, I will change my opinion and I'll play him because the talent is there, right? And he's hot fire and the recent form is there, and he can go out this week and win, no doubt. I was expecting him to be higher owned. So I agree with your sentiment to say if he's going to be kind of overlooked, I don't mind playing him at all because I thought he was, because of taking Tiger down, I kind of thought the average guy would come in and go, well, I got to take him. He beat Tiger. What I got to play him, right? And so little surprised if he's going to go overlooked this week. But I understand it because of the price, but I will play him if he's going to be under 10%.
You do make a good point about the putts because he had the eagle putt against Tiger late. And then on the Sunday, I can't remember what match it was, but he sunk another really, really long putt. He was draining some serious putts. But still, like you touched on, I mean, I'm a little bit surprised that he's kind of like, people are like, whatever.
Even before he caught fire, so we were there and we were watching him some, just because if you're in the DFS industry, you knew who he was. He was pretty good coming out of the Euro. And so I was watching, and Baroff, one of our buddies, he'd mentioned him several times. So I had my eyes on him. And even Wednesday and Thursday, this dude was draining 20 and 30 footers before he was on the radar. So I was like, man, he really likes his drain. But I will caution because typically the Valero and the greens are a lot slower than not only Austin, but definitely Augusta. I've heard that they plan on making them a little quicker because they want to attract people moving forward if they're going to fall in this spot before the Masters, kind of like the Shell Open or the Shell Houston Open. But if they're slow, guys like Lucas, guys like Finau, who loves quicker greens, he puts well at Augusta, may struggle here and may not want to come back. So it'll be interesting to kind of see and hear what they think of the greens. I'm going to pay special. I'm going to try to go out tomorrow afternoon and watch some of these guys, maybe try to talk to a couple and see how the greens are rolling.
Yeah, man, you mentioned Tony Finau at the Masters, and you just ended your conversation with Joe Pita. I mean, there's some data in there about the putts that Tony was sinking. Holy cow, man, that dude was on fire.
He was.
Let's get to the $8,000 range. Now, I know this guy, he's popping in the model that you publish on Gup's Corner, and he's getting no love whatsoever in the industry right now. Denny McCarty, tell us, do you love him? Do you hate him? Are you good with him? What's up?
8,100, maybe a hair higher than I thought he may come in. I followed the kid for a while. Great pedigree. He's 17, I think, was in my model come Monday. He's right there. No love at all. Sure. He'll be in my player pool, especially if I'm going to do 20 plus lineups. This is a week just historically wise that it's better for me, at least, to do a 20 entry in the 44 as opposed to a couple singles. DraftKings is kind of pushing everybody to the satellites. So it makes people, I mean, they really want some satellites this week on that 3765. And so I'm going to do some of those satellites, but I'm going to build 20 in the 44 probably, and just give it and I'll probably throw the same 20 in the $5 just for, shits and giggles. But Denny can play, right? He just hadn't found that next level PGA, to turn it all up. But, he won on the web.com last week. I think he can show up and play here for sure. And he's definitely will go. I mean, you can have him in 1 in 20 lines, so it'll be 5%, and you maybe double the field at 5%. So he's worth a look. Yeah.
All right. Next guy in that $8,000 range is a guy who I swore off him a long time ago because I played him a lot. And literally every time I played this dude, he missed the cut. I don't think he's ever made a cut for me. Ryan Palmer, tee to green and approach at both the Honda and the Farmers this season. He finished 4th and 13th in those. Obviously, he's got the course history here. 3 straight finishes of 6th or better from 2015 to 2017, I think. Missed the cut last year because he misses cuts. That's what he does. Earlier this season, and I can't remember the name, what tournament it was, but Bucks was like, this is the week to play Ryan Palmer. And I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm not playing Ryan Palmer. And he went out and had like 28 birdies. So where are we with Ryan Palmer? Can I dip my toe? Because I don't want to be sitting there, right, on Sunday listening to these announcers talking about, Texas, Brian Palmer in Texas. He's a Texas player. He knows these wins. He knows these greens. Blah, 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 blah. I don't want to hear it. What do I do with Ryan Palmer?
I'm in. I was hoping for a traditional strong win Valero tournament, which has been historically how the course is played. Right now, Thursday looks maybe as the best Thursday weather-wise as the Valero's ever had. It is absolutely 85 degrees, sunny, Florida weather like you're used to. Not a lick of wind will be in the air Thursday, which is extremely rare for San Antonio, and so or South Texas or anything over here. Now Friday, you get a little wind in, little system, which could come to his advantage as it gets a little tougher. Later Friday, Saturday is going to be an absolute. There's chances of strong storms, dramatic rain, and then Sunday it's right back to perfect weather. So it's a little bit weird, but nothing you can base upon because the majority of the first Thursday and Friday at pre-con are going to be great weather, right? And so that kind of hurt me because he's a West Texas guy, as you mentioned. So he loves playing in the wind. He's like Ricky Fowler. His advantage in the wind is stronger than the average of the field. But I followed him, so I picked up on him. He hit his approach shot on 3 at the Honda. I live bet him because we were about 30 seconds ahead of the books, and then I released it to the community, and we got him at like some egregious number because he was way back Sunday morning. Yeah. And then we followed him. I followed him the entire last 12 holes. I walk up to him crossing like 11 to 12. I'm double fisted, and he's like, little hair of the dog there, huh? And I was like, yes, sir. And we walked with him the entire back 9, and he was great. And Bones joined him obviously because he caught hot fire, right? So he's leading the turn, tied or even got the lead by the end of it. Missed a short putt on 18, but I love him. I think the game is there. I think at 8,400, I was afraid of him being chalky. What is fan share showing on him? Like, is he looking chalky or no?
No, not at all. Let me pull up the data, but he was kind of middle of the pack. Well, I mean, you got 13, 12, and a couple guys with 11 up top, and then he's 9, so he's not that far off, but looks like Answer and List, and probably Vegas to some extent, are gonna, lead the way in that category. I mean, Just Luton has more tags than Brian Palmer right now.
I like him. I'm in on him this week. I think it's a tournament he can win for sure. And so at 8,400, I'll have him in my player pool 100%.
All right. West Texas, Clear Eyes. What's that called? Full Heart, Can't Lose.
Absolutely. Friday Night Lights, baby.
Yeah, baby. All right. $7,000 range. My boy, the Canadian. I love Canadians. Nick Taylor.
Okay.
What's the matter now? I'm not talk about Corey Connors or anything.
You said my boy. I thought you were going to go to my love and my heart, but we'll start with Nick Taylor.
Oh, well, I know your guy. I like him too. But Nick Taylor, 5 straight cuts made with finishes of 35th or better. Nearly all of those tournaments, in my opinion, had stronger fields than this one. He's my showdown go-to guy. What's your opinion of Mr. Nick Taylor this week?
Currently is in my player pool for my single bullet lineup. Love him, all about it. There's another guy around the 7,600 mark who is my love, other than Ryan Armour, probably my favorite guy on the tour, and I've been on him since he was an amateur at the Masters last year. But Nick Taylor at 7,200 will be worst case in my 1 to 3 max pool. For sure, everything else a 20 max, but he is currently on the bubble of being in my single max bullet pool as well. There's nothing about him I don't like, and I'm on him this week. Easy.
Are you talking about Joaquin Niemann?
Neiman's my boy. I was on. What's weird is, and you know this because you've been around the community well enough, that I build blindly. So all my models, I don't look at it's an unbiased build. It's a blind model. And so going into, Sunday night, I'm like, I love Joaquin. His form's just been, he missed a cut at Punta. So I was like, okay, that may pull people. He's like, well, he can't even make the freaking cut at Punta. He's not going to win the Valero. And I'm like, good. That'll put people off of him. I was like, I just pray he's top 40 in my model. Just pray. I get done, I unbuild the names, and he's fucking 9th. And I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. Like, he's really 9th in my model. Like, this can't be true. And so I'm in. I'm all in. So if he missed cuts, I'll be there Friday afternoon with him, and I'll be like, man, you just cost me quite a bit of money. You just cost Max Homa. We're gonna donate to Max Homa's cause. You cost Greg Chalmers. You just screwed a lot of charities, Neiman. We gotta have to come to Jesus. But I love Joaquin. I've loved him since and it's funny, Bucks and I are walking around, Wednesday at Augusta last year. And I'm like, we're watching another group who was right in front of Joaquin. So we kept seeing Joaquin's approach shots. I'm like, who the hell is that with Rahm? And we finally, I'm like, you ain't got no phone, right? You're at a gut, it's just, who is it? And finally we put it together, and I was like, man, this dude. So we follow him the rest of the day, and then we follow him at the par 3, and he's absolutely throwing darts at the par 3. And I'm like, this kid is the real deal. And so I've loved him ever since. And this time last year, I loaded up on him on DraftKings before anybody really knew who he was, and he finished 6th in it was his first pro tournament. And I cleaned up last year in DraftKings and had 0% Andrew Landry, who won this thing last year. But I love him. I'm all in on him, and Neiman and Taylor could start a real damn good single lineup for me.
So I'm like you in terms of the week-long contest. I typically will do like 3 lineups, 3 max, kind of keep it in there. And I might mess around with, MME at some other weeks, but typically I'm a 3 max guy. And literally I have played every single week this year Joaquin Niemann, dude. I love that guy. And he's missed a lot of cuts. He's cost Hump some money, but I'm waiting for that turnaround, and it's coming, dude. Like, you look at his numbers on approach, and he can't putt for anything lately, but it's coming. And then I saw he tweeted today something about like back to where it all began. So
yeah, so I watched.
He's going off.
I watched this deal today, and it kind of put me over the top. And I text the group, and they some of them kind of jabbed at me, but I forget, and we forget, right? So this kid just turned 20 in November, and in his presser today, he goes, I finally feel comfortable because I'm at a course that I've played before as a pro. And he goes, the last 6 weeks have been tough, but you go back to the last 6 weeks, he made 3 cuts out on the Florida swing on some tough ass courses. And it's like, oh shit, he's not seen these courses twice in his life before. And this is the first one. And he goes, I finally feel like I know where the locker room is. Like, he's making jokes about it. He's like, last year, I didn't know where shit was. I'm just walking around like a stumble-ill 19-year-old, and I get a 6th place. And so this year, I'd watch out for him the next 2 months. And if people got burned on him because he didn't, finish top 20 these last 4 weeks, yeah, I feel bad for him because I think he's going to go on a little run to surprise some people. Yeah,
I'm definitely not going to get him off him at this point.
Oh, yeah, I'm invested now. I got to stay in, right?
Yeah, I'm in.
It would crush my soul if he top 10 or won this thing this week, and I wasn't on him.
No, I can't do that.
I couldn't handle it. No,
I can't do that. All right, one more here in the $7,000 range, and I got to be honest with you, I'm a little disappointed because I'm placed some futures bets on this guy for the Masters just for fun, man. And my man's not even in the tournament at this point. He needs to win this week. Russell Henley, can he pull some kind of magic, win this tournament, and get himself back to the Masters where he's got 2 straight top 15s, seemingly always plays well? Is there any narrative street love for Mr. Henley?
So I think it's a good and a bad. He's actually crossed my path a few. And I think you've been in a few, but I've been doing this the draft deal, the app that, I know Tambo's pushing it. Yeah. And so he's kind of been like, I'm like, shit, if he gets in, I mean, he's a damn good sleeper, but is he going to make it? But so the good and the bad there with someone like that is he going to press too hard because he knows he has to win, or is he just going to grind out his game and have a chance on Sunday? We can't get in a player's mind. Like we've said many times, if we could, we'd have all the monies, right? If we could get on these players' mind. But does he have the talent and skill to win this week? 100% he does. But I wonder if so we take back to last year, right? I knew Poulter's mindset was he's a mature enough player to go, I know I got to win, but I'm not going to press it. But when I get there Sunday, it's do or die. So if Henley can put himself in a place to be there Sunday, I think he has a great chance.
Interesting. All right, man, we're down there. We're in the $6,000 range.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to talk to you about a guy, right? He's got finishes of 33rd, 12th, 2nd, 30th, 23rd, and 60th this season. 3 missed cuts mixed in. He has gained strokes on approach in 5 of his 7 shot-linked tourneys since his season opener at the Sony Open. He is my man, Roger Sloan.
Yes, I heard him. It was fun. I was listening to a Potter. I'm late today. Normally I try to listen to all the industry pods on Tuesday so I can catch up. Today was a very busy day at work. So I'm taking off tomorrow afternoon, the rest of the week to go to the Valero. So I've been, knee deep, but he's there, right? So I think it was a joke a few weeks ago. People are throwing out Roger Sloan as kind of like a joke deal, but you start watching him and you go, well, I mean, for 6,500, he damn sure worth a dart this week, and he's in play. He's probably outside my bubble right now, and strictly because kind of what I told you earlier. I think this week I'm gonna gear towards a little bit more balance. But if you will like the 12% Ricky because he's coming in low and you need to grasp down here, I think you can put Roger Sloan, Max Homa. There's several guys in that Roberto Castro, John Stefani, Carlos Ortiz. There's guys there that are all real close in potential that you can take chances on this week because the field's a little weaker. That they just need one thing to get hot of their core game, and they can make the cut. And that's all you're looking for when I get guys that are like, well, can he win? DMing me. I'm like, I don't need a 6,500 guy to win. If he makes the cut, he's returned his value right there. Everything he does past the cut is gravy. When I'm looking at 6,000, I'm like, can this guy make the cut this week? And if the answer is yes, then he moves on to the next stage. I'm not looking at a guy that's top 20 down there by any means. So I agree with you. He's right there on the fence for me, but I think he's worth a look.
Yeah, and you mentioned Carlos Ortiz, who a few weeks ago was getting talked up a whole bunch, and this week nobody's talking about him. I like Carlos Ortiz this week in that down low range. I think even Ben Cooley talked about him in his piece, talking about his Texas connections and all that. So no, Carlos Ortiz.
I agree. And it's a week where 3 weeks ago, everybody's talking about him. So, I mean, I'm not going to chase a chalky guy down here. Right. But I still like him. I still think his game's great. So if I get to a week like this week and he's still top 40 in my kind of rankings down there and no one's talking about him, yeah, I'll throw a 1 or 2 liners with him in there when I get huge leverage over the field, because he hadn't changed for me. Everybody just kind of fell off the wagon. I'm like, well, he's still who he is. I still like him. So I'm all in.
Yeah. All right, man. We're going to close this out with a little segment I'm going to call Gups Gorilla. We're going to throw the ownership stuff, the price stuff out the window. I just want to know who's going to get out there and destroy the course, gorilla style. Who's your favorite play this week, Gup?
Everything aside, huh?
Everything aside.
So he has not been mentioned at all in this pod, but I think this guy is going to win and get his way into the Masters next week. Oh. And it's Ryan Moore. I think the game is there. I think he may go way overlooked. He's number 2 in my model. I'm not hyping him up by any means. I'm putting it out there where he's at, but I think he's got the game for this course to grind it out, be there Sunday. His ball striking is right there among anybody in this tournament. Make a few putts, wins, and gets into the Masters.
Damn, I love it, dude. That is bold. I love that stuff. Now I got to play a double Ryan line. I'm going to get Palmer and Moore out there.
That a baby.
Dag nabbit. This is going to be brutal. All right, man. I love you, Gup. I appreciate you coming on, dude. So everybody's got to get to gupscorner.com before Sunday, before the end of the Masters, right? They got to lock in their rake. They're going to get the chance at Blue Jack National. About 4 o'clock, you're going to shut that thing down before Gup Cuts hair is going to pull out that winner. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
All right, man. And if you want to support autism awareness, World Autism Day, MaximumChances.org. I'm going to make a donation tomorrow. We're going to find out what it is after I do or do not run. It's 11:39. I got to wake up at 4 a.m. Yup. Thank you, brother. Any parting shots?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. Support those causes. Gup's Corner has pledged to match Max Homa's cause he's working on. We're going to give $25 for every birdie he makes, $50 for every eagle he makes. I'm going to try to meet up with him tomorrow afternoon while he's on the range. Another great cause. And that's what we're all about, helping people out. Mr. Burkett would kill me if I didn't say we are approaching 50-60% sold of our very first Masters, it's very first t-shirt we've ever done. And it's a super high quality shirt that the boys at We Bleed Blue, who's the official provider for the New York Rangers hockey, did our shirts for us. Bucks had the hook up there, and Joe's been great. And so get up to gupscorner.com/store. You don't have to be a member. You can access it free as well. Those shirts are limited edition Masters friends, family friends in green jacket shirt. And it's an amazing shirt those guys designed. It's great. They arrive here in the next 48 hours and we'll start shipping them. But hey, that money is going to go. We're putting a lot of the proceeds aside at the end of the year to a big pot we're working on to charity. So a lot of those proceeds are going to go there. So that's another way to help out the community and help Gups Corner out. So altogether, I appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to the Valero, and then obviously we're all looking forward to the Masters next week. It's going to be a great time.
All right, very cool. This Humpnostication proclamation ran long, but that's because Gup is a good man to talk to. Next week for the Masters, I got my buddy Bucks on, and last year's Masters Millionaire Maker winner. Stay tuned.